But I am interested in this because I used to play Rogue Company a shit ton. Yeah. What we got going on? Ooh, the aesthetic is very nice. Ooh.
Hi-Rez is a company
I
known
appreciate
for
you, Austin.
taking popular trends and making an attempt of their own, often leading to quite successful endeavors. Well, initially. And then the dreaded high-res abandonment sets in as things slow down and suddenly things come to a quiet end. This is the story of many high-res titles, but none more high-profile in the world of shooters than the third-person shooter Rogue Company.
Evil West? Wait, is that on Game Pass? Dude, I remember I almost spent $50 on fucking the 100 Thieves Rogue Company set. Oh my god, bro. Or it was like 35 or something like that. It was like $35, but you needed to buy $50 worth of coins to get it. I was like, yeah, I love 100 Thieves and I like this game, but I'm not spending that much fucking money, goddamn. Purple, remind me if I'm not super sleepy by the end of this to check out the trailer, because somebody recommended that to me before.
Company, which was designed by famed Halo pro Scott Gandhi and featured a soundtrack from the famed rap group Run the Jewels.
Oh.
Rogue Company was to many players a third-person Counter-Strike, which was novel enough to gather an initial audience including some famed content creators like Dr. Disrespect. But then suddenly the updates started to evaporate in classic high-res fashion, and a company restructure seemed to put Rogue Company on the shelf. While the game is still technically alive,
Dude, Own Duckling is probably playing this game right now, dude. He's been turning up.
it hasn't received much of any attention, as it exists in a maintenance
Might have to
mode
play it
sort of
again.
state, finding its way onto this series, Death of a Game, where we diagnose the largest contributing factors for the death of a game or company, using a timeline to uncover various clues and bits of evidence culminating together finally
that's fire.
for a final
Wait.
production.
You
I
throw a knife?
love and hate high-res, like many of its OG fans, so I feel like just the
Goose,
person
you
to
stuck?
cover
Oh, never
any
mind.
of their titles, especially when I am so used to their approach, or pattern I should say at this point. Without further ado, let's get to the case. Why did Hi-Rez abandon yet another seemingly successful game?
Rogue Company, Death of a Game.
The story begins back in 2019 with the announcement of Rogue Company. Paladins and Realm Royale would launch the year before.
Oh, they did Paladins? Damn, I didn't realize that. Didn't realize that, bro. Also didn't realize they did whatever the fuck this is. Realm Royale? Is this just Fortnite, but in their form? Is that what this is? I remember Rogue Company very clearly because it was during COVID. I was like playing it. I'd even play it offline sometimes. That's how much I liked it.
Being the biggest examples of what many fans would call the high-res chasing a trend. So Rogue Company following the year after would make it feel very much like the title was in a similar boat.
Switch?
And before people say, well, that's quite unfair, as the video starts with, if you haven't seen other high-res videos I recommend, Global Agenda, Realm Royale. But Hi-Rez has been chasing trends since their third-person MOBA Smite accidentally kept working. Realm Royale and Paladins were able to steal some success.
No fucking way. I didn't know these were the motherfuckers behind Smite.
Success from the popular titles in their genres. Paladins able to have more long-lasting success. And Hi-Rez was looking to do the same with what was looking to be a cross.
Yeah, dude, fucking Lol Jake swears by Paladins. Dude, hell yeah, Charles, hell yeah.
A cross-platform third-person shooter dubbed Rogue Company. Rogue Company would feature a lead designer from the Halo competitive royalty, Scott Gandhi. So theoretically, the game was in good hands. Rogue Company would dip into a seemingly unpatched money exploit within Epic Games and become an Epic exclusive the same year. That's because, as many know, later on, Rogue Company would also launch on Steam. Now, we've not only seen titles do this before, we've seen them also fail epically, like titles like The
Epic
Cycle
pun.
and Spellbreak, which we've covered on the series.
What?
The move is one for...
I've heard of Spellbreak. I have not heard of the other one. I think the only reason I've heard about Spellbreak is because Jolo used to play it.
financial reasons purely, taking a bag before launching for real on another, more popular platform in Steam. Rogue Company would charge for closed beta access on Epic Games Store July 2020, a classic high-res move done in nearly all of their games. It reduces the amount of refunds that you can get, since players are likely to play at least a few hours at launch to see how things are going to go eventually, and the problem is that it makes your game feel very dated before it ever fully launches. Now, I won't completely poo-poo paid closed betas just because at least they involve those in the beta that are actually motivated to test it, but it's just if the game doesn't launch with enough content, then many people who have been playing it for probably years before at that point are gonna feel like it's not good enough.
Yeah.
It's a classic problem that happens with these early access /
so
closed
real.
beta paid access games. It's at this time that Rogue Company's identity is seen for the first time. It wasn't just a
Just fine.
shooter. It was taking inspiration from the famed competitive shooter Counter-Strike, which was an interesting idea, right? A third-person Counter-Strike. Rogue Company was also splitting audiences and attempting to also be a hero shooter, like Overwatch or even Paladins in a sense. I say splitting audiences because Counter-Strike players generally aren't hero shooter players. Overwatch kind of learned this the hard way. They play their game because it allows them to use guns and military stuff, while Valorant is the fantasy version that actually allows heroes as well.
Yeah.
Valorant was already around, so it had that part covered. But Rogue Company was trying to do, in many ways, what Valorant was doing, just in third person. So it was almost less influenced by CS and more influenced by the more current trend. Valorant, though, was built from the ground up with a powerful developer backing them to be a competitive shooter, and a developer in Riot that already knew how to do it with League of Legends. Trying to compete with them was going to not just be difficult, it was going to feel almost impossible.
You know, the more I look at Rogue Company, the more it makes me think of mobile games. Like, just the design of it all just like kind of looks like mobile game-esque to me.
If being third person was your whole gimmick, it's oddly reminiscent of Battleborn leaning into their Overwatch iceberg.
Oh lord, wait, did they do Battleborn? The only reason I know about that game is because I see it at Family Dollar all the time, or I used to.
Open beta would take place October 1st, 2020, and Screen Rant,
Yup, this was right around the time I started playing it.
who had played the game the previous months before it went free in open beta, had the following to say about the game in their preview write-up. It's a strange mixture. The heroes have a cartoonish look that clashes with the realistic arsenal they have at their disposal. The original key art for the game fits more with this gameplay, but the hero designs are one of the few things that the developers at First Watch Games have nailed from the get-go. While there could have been more work in game to really get these personalities over, the designs are varied enough to effortlessly form a cohesive world, right up until one of them picks up a standard assault rifle. Screen Rant's issues seem to be about the world's continuity issues, and how unlike the game's competitors, it was just lacking there. The Structoid, who played the game before open beta, was calling the game devoid of personality or just generic, despite not particularly having a bad gameplay experience. IGN, who would rate the game a 7 out of 10 based on the open beta on Epic Games.
Does IGN ever rate anything bad anymore? Or are they just like, yeah, it was alright, 6. That's alright, 7. I didn't want to destroy my computer. We'll give it a 7.
Store would have the following conclusion to make about their time in the game. Rogue Company isn't entertaining if derivatives shake up to the established hero shooter genre, mixing elements from various other games to prop up the handful of unique ideas it can call its own. Beneath these seemingly basic third-person shooter mechanics are intricate strategies, interesting characters with nuanced abilities, and plenty of maps to keep things varied. It could use some work on the technical side, but as free-to-play team shooters with crossplay on every platform, there's a fun foundation here that already feels worth my time. So while the
Yeah, IGN lost my respect about 2016, 2017.
biggest complaints were concerning the game's genericness and technical issues, the game was still able to garner an impressive 2 million players. It even attracted streamer Dr. Disrespect, who would even get his own skin. To add some of my personal thoughts about the game, I actually think that the game is pretty fun, all things considered, especially considering its very, as IGN put, derivative. My issues are, and nobody else mentioned this in their review that I could see, is that the third-person animations are honestly really bad. They're really clunky and clearly have delays to them. As somebody who's been playing third-person shooters for a long time, this is pretty noticeable for me. Now that aside, the game was being relatively positively received. The concern, and the concern always is with high-res, is could they keep that momentum going post-launch? Rogue Company would fulfill their console crossplay dreams in November 2020 with the Xbox launch. Now, I personally think that a third-person shooter does well on console, or at least it can, so it wasn't a bad idea. Season 2 would hit May 12th, 2021, and it was Rogue Company's biggest update yet. It would introduce a new rogue, new maps, new events,
I think I remember people telling me to play this in 2021.
and even a new battle pass. In my opinion, this was their best foot forward. It just took them 7 months to create it because they clearly launched a unfinished game. A 7-month content schedule is a snail pace in this modern age, and that likely slowed a lot of their momentum, despite how good the update was. Rogue Company would come to Steam just about 8 months after the game was playable on Epic Games Store, which makes the whole exclusive thing just kind of seem silly, and seem like Mr. Tim Sweeney just got finessed by dozens of companies doing the same thing. The problem with this is that it doesn't create platform
Rav, thank you so much for the raid, homie. I appreciate you, bro. Sleep well. Have an amazing fucking day tomorrow. I hope you've been doing fucking amazing. Yo, chat, please go show my boy Rav some love. Been working on a Minecraft mod pack that takes 8,000 hours to complete. Oh my god. Oh my god, bro. Yo, good luck with that. I'm excited to see you play it. That is sick, dude. Welcome in, Raiders. By the way, I'm Ravis Chris. I hope you guys enjoy your stay. If you do, feel free to drop a follow. Appreciate y'all. 15. It's called Greg Tech New Horizons. Oh, shit. Dude, fuck yeah.
And while that might sound funny to many
That's
of you,
insane.
Steam dorks can be touchy about it, and people notice the whole epic exclusive trick and then also get turned off, as you can tell from this very
Get what?
popular thread on Reddit. The population would hit an almost 12k peak, and then 6,500 average, which was pretty impressive, especially since it doesn't count the cross-platform populations. Rogue Company would then score 74% on Steam, which wasn't so bad and certainly salvageable. It seemed like players were willing to give the game a shot, on account of it being free and all too. In a bizarro world move, Hi-Rez would do what they do, but this time with one of their pre-existing games and add a battle royale mode that they were arguing that people wanted. I don't remember that personally, but that's kind of the MO. It's one thing to move slowly on updates for a live service competitive shooter style game, which is already a sin. It's another to start adding modes that basically change the identity of what the gameplay is. At this point, the population had dropped from their impressive initial peak to just 1,500 players. So I find it really
It's alright, bro. It's alright. I got the link still here. I'm gonna open up on this computer so I can check it later. Holy fuck.
hard to argue that any of those players were asking for this, right? Many of the testimonies that I were getting
That's insane. I don't even know what that is, but that's insane.
from players who
Is that for in Minecraft? Or is this what is this? Holy shit, bro.
were jilted about the game were concerning moves like this and the speed of the content being released.
Nah, you got a big brain. Also, you're crazy for wanting to play that in your free time, but good on you. A degree in chemistry? Holy shit.
What was more worrying was apparently that Scott Gandhi was getting moved to lead developer on the mobile version of the game, with Pretty Hair being moved to lead designer. According to my sources, Pretty Hair would change the game from a competitive style approach to a more casual arena that allowed for some level of RNG now. These changes wouldn't be wanted nor particularly liked, according to the community though. A few new seasons would be introduced throughout 2022, introducing some new maps, a King of the Hill ranked mode, further splitting the player base by the way, which was already in trouble. However, notice this bit of trivia at the bottom of Season 8, where it states that it's the second season without a new map, and you can see that the content was starting to slow down even further. Now it becomes even more difficult to resurrect a dying competitive multiplayer game when you have such a small player base, and you were already behind content-wise, especially with—
Dude! Fuck yeah, Rav. Happy to hear it, bro. I love seeing you winning, bro.
Hi-Rez's track record of abandoning all of their less successful games, which felt almost inevitable at this point. Season 10 was the desperation season. They were promising adding a wingman mode, which would bring back players knowing that they could actually find matches now even if they were just 2v2 matches, which I enjoy, I should add. You can see the population pop up a bit because of this, over 2k again peak. However, the average amount was only at 1,400 players on Steam, and this is quite the
Sleep well, Rav!
fall from their initial gracious numbers, and being featured on the front page of Twitch. Success was drying up, and it was noticeable on the Nintendo Switch especially, with high-res killing support altogether of Rogue Company. Now, I didn't even know that they had a launch there, to be honest, and I don't know if it's even the best target audience, to be blunt, so I can't use this as a big example of the game failing as a whole or not doing super
Yeah, but there's a lot of third-person shooters, I feel like, that have been successful on Switch.
well, but it is kind of just another thing to add to the rap sheet. In a shocking turn of events, Hi-Rez would restructure their company into like 4 different companies in June of 2023. Hi-Rez itself would be rebranding as Hi-Rez Ventures, which makes sense considering they were a private equity company anyway. And then Titan Forge Games would be in charge of Smite and Smite 2, which they hadn't announced at the time. And then Evil Mojo Games would be heading up Paladins, Realm Royale, and Rogue Company. Then Rally here would be in charge of the in-house software company, helping all of the companies. And then finally, added later on, Prophecy Games was a new subsidiary of Hi-Rez, with the CEO himself in charge of it, handling the new Tribes game. Now, if this seems quite confusing, and many of you are wondering why, besides the reasons they feed us, well, let's just be honest, it's because they know that their Hi-Rez name reputation sucks. And I'm glad, because, well, they deserve that. If your reputation sucks so much that you're changing your name into 5 different companies, there's probably a good reason for that. That being said, they had to have learned from Wildcard of Arc Infamy, who has like 7 different companies who've made like a bunch of different games. That if you just create a bunch of subsidiaries and companies and rename them a bunch of times and move the devs
Austin, you too, bro. I appreciate you, dog. Sleep well. Have an amazing day tomorrow.
around,
Slash
people
today.
just forget about the hate of the parent company, or the OG company, period. Now, chatting shit aside, Erez Gorin, the previous CEO who ruined quite a few of the projects we have mentioned before, is still leading the company. My read on the restructuring is that Evil Mojo is the maintenance company operating on a shoestring budget, which means that Paladins, Realm Royale, and unfortunately the topic of this video, Rogue Company, won't be getting any more significant updates. Updates they needed before they rushed their launch. With peak numbers back to where they were before, and average numbers in the 800s, things just weren't looking good for Rogue Company. If you check their Steam Spy, you can actually see that they only ever reached about 20,000 players on Steam, which is only 9k players higher than their peak player count. Which kind of proves my point about how this money glitch of Epic Games Store exclusives seems to have some serious negative ramifications.
Yeah.
Rogue Company would be doing so poorly, the much-teased mobile game, the one that they moved their lead designer for, Rogue Company Elite, would be canceled the same month that the restructuring was announced.
Why, dude? I feel like mobile games like that do really well and could make a shit ton of money.
Now, this was a significant blow, because although some might wonder why does a mobile game spin-off dying matter, it's because COD Mobile rakes in the cash, and Rogue Company is quite aware of that, or they were, at least. Them canceling the title meant that they didn't see the market there anymore, and there was just too fierce of competition.
What?
Now, what should also be mentioned is that Scott Gandhi was no longer working at Hi-Rez, and now is working as a design director on Hunt Showdown. Pretty Hair would leave the company and go work on Fortnite. So either of these developers clearly had some level of skill to go get hired pretty much immediately by other companies right after. But
Better companies.
things just didn't work out for them at Hi-Rez, which, for me, kind of shows you that there must be some issues at Hi-Rez, right?
Yeah. It's kind of a red flag.
With
a
the
big
music
red
playing,
flag.
that means that we've reached the end of this mystery. While Rogue Company is still hobbling around, it hasn't gotten a serious update in almost a year. And with the current population numbers in the absolute gutter, I don't see it making a comeback anytime soon. So what went wrong with Rogue Company? Well, if you weren't paying attention, the Hi-Rez effect was in full effect. It was released unfinished and it just never caught up. They never cultivated a community. They were platform switchers. It had a poor market and design focus. What even was the focus? A total lack of identity. In the end, are we totally surprised? No, not all cases will be surprising, especially with some repeat offenders. However, there is something particularly interesting about Rogue Company as an attempt by Hi-Rez. It feels even cheaper than the previous Realm Royale attempt, and even Paladins, which actually managed to keep an audience around and be pretty successful. Maybe it's all the time spent on marketing over making a good game, or asking for proper feedback, the big soundtracks using Run the Jewels despite not even being a completed project yet. Rogue Company just feels like, and felt like, Hi-Rez hasn't learned a damn thing. And that's worrying if you're a fan of Smite with the second game on the horizon. But who knows, maybe they are stacking all of their talent on that title next as their possible golden goose. because it's certainly not them betting on Tribes 3 for the future with how things are going there. And
Yeah, I feel like you gotta learn from your mistakes, or you're just gonna keep making them, you know?
I'm sure that Hi-Rez, with all their different names now, will continue to do what they do best. Come up with good game ideas
Pump
that
it
are
up.
fun and have no idea how to manage and keep them going. Thanks for watching.
Next case, oh, we get a preview? That's fire. What game is this? Oh, I don't even know. Dude, that was really fucking good. That was really good. I'm gonna have to tap in on Nerd Slayer Studios. I've never watched this person before.